Periscope feed up and we will get going, people. Reaction from what's going on in Charlottesville. Want your comments. We're going to have a civil conversation and really get everything going. Thank you guys for joining me today. Unafraid, right or wrong. So as you guys know, some serious things are going on in Charlottesville. And we're going to discuss them. We want your comments, want your questions, whatever it is, just bring it in and we will have a civil discussion about these things. So please like the feed, share the feed, swipe up and share, do whatever it is you need to do so we can have a conversation. So what's been going on is there have been Confederate monuments being moved out of whether it's Louisiana, now Charlottesville, and they're being protested. They're being protested by people who want them to stay up, and those just so happen to be some white people, right? So there's different elements to this, right? So the question is, how do you feel about these monuments and all this being up in the first place? That's the first question I have for you, is how do you feel about these things being up? Because the way I look at it is this, is if you are going to, that these monuments, that they need to come down first and foremost, because, oh, it's happening 30 minutes away from you? Okay, we'll get to you in a second. The first reason why these things need to come down is because, even beyond the racist and being on the wrong side of history thing, just in the United States, the Confederates were traitors. They were traitors, treasonous. So the monuments, statues have to go. People are saying, oh, it's going to erase history. You can't erase history and all that. See, here's the thing is, you don't need to erase history. You put these things in a museum because you will repeat history if you do not catalog it and really learn it like that. So you preserve the history. However, you do not have to honor that history. That history does not have to be honored. You don't leave statues up of Hitler. You don't leave statues up of Saddam Hussein. You don't leave these statues up. These are the same people. These are treasonous. These are people who are on the wrong side of history. They were racist, slavist. I mean, there is so much to go into it. So that's why the statues need to come down first and foremost. And now what's going on in Charlottesville is I'm looking at it and I just tweeted out, I said, hold up, this doesn't make sense to me. First and foremost, because if any other group protested and showed up with armed security, there is no way in hell, if they showed up with an armed militia, that this would go peacefully. The National Guard would have been called. And this is where I'll ask you guys, what is the most alarming part of this Charlottesville protest to you? What is the most alarming part to you? Because I'll tell you what the most alarming part to me is. The most alarming part to me about this is the fearlessness of these people, is the fearlessness of them to go out in the street, and just do this. It makes no sense to me. They're not afraid of the repercussions. They're not afraid of what people are going to think. They're just really out there in the open doing this. This doesn't make sense to me. It is the normalization of it. I would 100% agree with you. This is the normalization of it. It makes no sense. And then people want to blame it on, oh, Colin Kaepernick. They want to blame it on the left. They want to blame it on whoever it is, on President Obama. You can't blame it on that. Because that assumes that these people were not out doing their own thing and and living in the shadows, doing the same thing, trying to oppress people, trying to back channel, do things to people. That assumes that these people were already there. This isn't President Obama's fault. This isn't the left's fault. This isn't good white people's fault. This is not anybody, none of those people's fault. These are the people who were still there, living in the shadows, racist, doing whatever it is that they do, because I don't know. And here's the thing is that they are protesting and they are saying some key things. They're saying, oh, they're trying to take our country. They're trying to take our land. We're losing our jobs. We're losing our country. Here's the thing about that. There's something interesting about equality. When you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. Remember that. When you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. There is no oppression here. Nobody is trying to harm the white people. And the reality is this, is that most people in this country are good. Most people in this country get along with other people, but there are segments and groups of other people that don't. And we have to realize, just look at the protests. Just look at the protests. They showed up with armed militia. If that is not the definition of privilege, I don't know what is. How is that not privilege? Because had Mexicans, black people, Asians, whoever it is, showed up with tiki torches in the middle of the night, which I already think is ironic. They showed up with a Polynesian cultural product to protest. And this is where I want to hear from the president. Because remember, after much pressure, he renounced and denounced David Duke and all these alt-right supporters. He denounced them, right? So where are you at now, Mr. Trump? Because I want you to say something. Because you are our president. Regardless of whether people voted for him or didn't, he is the president of these United States. And I want to know, what do you guys feel like the worst or the most alarming part of this is? I want to hear from our president, and I want to hear from Jeff Sessions. That's who I want to hear from. Because the people out there in Virginia, they're scared right now. The good people of Virginia are scared. Their city is being attacked. Because here's the thing. We have the right, and those alt-right people and everybody, they have the right to protest. I do not condemn their protest. They have the right to protest whatever the hell it is that they want to. Yes, this is enabled by President Trump's election on some level. Because I will tell you this. If you look at what has happened in high schools, right? You look at what happens in what's been happening in other places. My daughter goes to high school. And she said after the election, all this, that kids at her school came to school telling other people of color, go back to where you came from, snatching burqas off of girls' heads. This is an empowerment and an emboldenment that has happened. Regardless of whether he really believes, President Trump really believes this or anything. Can we change Black Lives Matter to Diversity Matters? I mean, all these things matter. So if someone says Black Lives Matter, right? That's an issue that may be sensitive to them, that affects them in their lives with the police brutality, right? That may affect them. It's just like cancer. If my grandmother died from, she had multiple myeloma. If I say, let's help all the people with multiple myeloma, that does not mean that breast cancer sufferers are not needed, loved, and cared about as well. Then there's the issue of race baiting. You guys, please make sure you share the feed, like the feed. Let's continue this conversation. Listen, yes, we never learned deep sense of societal guilt like the Germans. I would agree with that. We haven't had the deep societal guilt, and that was going to get to this point, is that there's this whole get over it mentality. The whole, guys, you guys need to get over it, right? I mean, how do you expect people to get over something when things continue on a daily basis, when nothing changes? And then there is Colin Kaepernick and all that Black Lives Matter, they're dividing our country because you're bringing up an uncomfortable subject. That's really the truth. That's what causes the division, is the division is caused from people not being willing to stand up and say, you know what? I know that I don't live this way. I know that I don't believe this way. But all of this was wrong, and all of this happened because people assume, they say, oh, well, schools were integrated. The board versus education happened and segregation was ended. Black people, and brown people and women, you are where you need to be because it ended. Laws have changed. Here's the thing you have to remember. When you look at those pictures, right? When you look at those pictures from the 50s, 60s, there were 8, 9, 10, 12, 13-year-olds that were in those pictures throwing rocks, hosing people, laughing at people being hung and lynched, right? Where are those people right now? Some of them are dead. But guess what? They taught their kids things. Yes, some of them believed it and some of them influenced it. Those people are still in power today. That's the thing that that's the thing that we're missing. That's the thing that we are not paying attention to, is that just because the laws have changed on the books, that does not mean that institutional racism and institutional bias and bigotry has been solved. Got to remember that. Exactly. The laws just force people to do it in the shadows, because here's the thing that we also have to remember is this, is that when a group feels condemned, when a group feels oppressed, whether it's black people, women, LGBTQ, whatever the community is, when they feel oppressed, what do? They rally around each other and they come together like a fist, and they get even stronger. They come stronger for their cause. Same thing with people on the left, same thing with people on the right. That's what happens. So those racist people, those people that weren't in, that felt, yes, white people too, when you feel some sort of something that's threatening to you, like equality, then you have to speak out. You have to go out. So those people were forced to live in the shadows because laws changed. But that didn't change their beliefs. That didn't change what they taught their people. That didn't change what they taught their kids. So it actually takes. So while things are better in this country, it takes generations to get racism and bigotry and hate out of people's minds. It takes a while. You have to remember that. It's not just fixed overnight. It doesn't just change immediately. And the scariest part of this protest in Charlottesville is this, is that if President Trump does not speak out, it is going to further empower these people to do this. And shunning racist is not the answer. Telling them they can't protest is not the answer. Education and integrating them into society actually helps, because I would rather know that someone doesn't like me. I would rather know that somebody is racist trying to work against me publicly than working behind me in the shadows, because you don't know what's going on there. Everybody's not a racist. Only racist people do racist things. White people are good people. Black people are good people. Here's one thing I learned in college, is that more than anything else that I probably learned in college, which is there are good white people, there are good black people, and there are just bad people. There are bad people of every race, creed, and color. That is the truth. And we need our president to speak out. And we need the people in this country to really realize that it is not some other group that has caused this. This is just a bubbling up to the surface because the Bible says this. The Bible says this, is that what's done in the dark will come to the light. So if you are racist, if you are a person who tries to oppress people, believes these things or doesn't believe these things are going to bubble up and come to the surface. They are going to. Not it won't be within the next 20 years. Our country will be one race, but it'll be pretty soon. It'll be pretty soon. Next 100 years. Because people, they're not just content to just say, you know what? I can't marry this person. I can't. But the interesting thing is that, we get taught and we get tweeted at about everything and all these trivial issues. You see something going on in Charlottesville, you don't speak up. That's a problem. And I actually feel bad for white people on some level in this, which is there are so many people who are good people doing the right things, and they get lumped in with these chumps. They get lumped in with these dudes. And it's got to be hard to be a person who, for me, the most frustrating thing is that I have some beliefs that some Republicans agree with, or people on the right. I have some ideals and beliefs that people on the left agree with. And that's like most people. We live in a place where, some stuff is on different sides. But the frustrating part for me is when you lump me in with these guys or you lump me in with these people. I don't live with the people on the right. I don't live with the people in the left. I live with what I believe. See, exactly. This is where it's saying is that where all the racism talk. Do you see what's going on at our own doorstep? Do you see what's going on at our own doorstep? Hold on one second. You see what's going on in our own doorstep. You can't tell people to be silenced. I mean, here's the thing that people don't realize is that as a black man, at times we are shamed in terms of, oh, don't say that something is racist. Don't say that something has to do with color. Sometimes it really does. Not even when it just equates to us, when it equates to other people as well. This is just the truth. I mean, it literally hurt my heart to turn. I mean, mind you, I was up hella late last night. And it hurt my heart to wake up and see, because I wasn't on Twitter last night, didn't watch TV. To hurt my heart to wake up and see this. Because these are people's lives. This is our country. North Korea, yes, that matters. Yes, what's going on in Iran matters. But we can't say, oh, let's just silence what's going on at our own doorstep, because this is going on in our own home. You can't fix what's going on in North Korea. You can't fix what's going on in Iran. You can't fix what's going on in other places until you're willing to have conversations and fix what's going on at your own doorstep. Because if you don't, guess what's going to happen? Mud keeps creeping up underneath the rug, and then it bubbles up because you can't act like it doesn't exist. You can't act like that these things aren't going on. And the other thing is, I mean, first things first, I think that it makes sense, right? So if you have a problem, if you're a man, woman, child, you have a family, right? You're out there trying to save the community. You're out there trying to help the community. But your house is in turmoil and your house is blowing up. Wife's getting ready to leave. Your kids are a mess. Which do you need to fix first? You need to fix the stuff at your own doorstep first. This is where we can't ignore this stuff. Like, we have to talk about it. It's not inflaming our country to talk about it. Has anybody besides me on here been to therapy? Has anybody been to therapy? Because what I learned in therapy, you talk about things, you figure out how to deal with these things that happened to you in the past, and then you can move forward. That's the only way to move forward. Not talking about these issues is not solving the problem. Talking about them in a civil discourse and actually using education to make these things better. You guys are 100% right. It's an education issue. Because shunning people doesn't work. It only empowers them and rallies them in shadows. The conversations are good. The application is not always good of those. Because if somebody disagrees with you, you can't go and say, "Oh, you're an idiot. You're a racist. You're this. You're that. F you." Yeah, you can't do that. That's what divides us. It's not the conversations that divide us. It's your reaction to the conversations that divide us. It's your lumping of people. The group think that everybody is with one person. If I agree with Donald Trump on one issue, oh, I must be a Trump supporter. No, I agree with him on this one issue. If I agree with whoever else on another, if I watch the Daily Show, oh, I'm far left, George, you're far left, you're in with those liberals. What? No, I am George Reister. You are you. You live in a place where you are honest. You live in a place where you believe what you believe. Don't be shamed in what you believe. Don't be trying to acquiesce to everybody else. Do you know how globalism starts? Break society, then offer the fix. Think Soros. Okay. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and realize what you and your country are doing to enable these things. There are Black Lives Matter protesters who are not doing things to help the cause. There are other protesters in other situations who aren't. There are, however, the vast majority of people are trying to do the right thing and they want to live in harmony and peace here in our country. They love our country. I love our country. But it is a little bit painful, to be honest, to think about the things that happened to my ancestors. When you know what history has happened, it's hard to feel, even though I love my country so much. I love my country so much, but you have to realize that people are sensitive to things that have happened to them. We don't tell Jewish people to get over it, to get over the Holocaust. We don't tell Japanese people to get over to get over to get over them being bombed, nuked. We don't tell anybody else to get over these things. We have to address these things in our country ourselves. And what's frightening is that if our president, and our leadership does not actually publicly condemn this will go on. Because it's scary, the fact that these people actually showed up with their own militia. And had any other cultural group showed up with this, even women, if women had showed up with security, armed to the teeth, riot gear and all that stuff and guns, that would have went bad too. I understand that you're not responsible for what your ancestors did. You are not responsible in terms of that. You didn't do it. However, you do have to deal with the aftermath of that and realize that, yes, there is white privilege. There is. That doesn't make people bad people. That doesn't make anything. You're just in a situation to where some things are easier for you. People don't automatically assume that you are a bad person, that they don't automatically assume that you're there to rob a store or take something, or that you don't have money. You have to remember that. So, like I said earlier, if you didn't hear it, is that for equality for people who have privilege, equality feels like oppression. You guys, thank you guys for joining me today. Continue the conversation. Thank you guys for coming in, having a civil discourse. I appreciate it. You guys, please like the feed, share the feed. I know this isn't sports like I normally do. No, that's not true. White privilege is not a fallacy. It's a real thing. You guys, I appreciate you guys joining the conversation. We will have more of these. You guys are great. Love you. We will continue. Hit me up on my Twitter feed today, and we will continue these things. All right, peace out.